TransInclusive Group unites South Florida's trans community for TDOR. November is a month of remembrance, advocacy, and celebration for South Florida's trans community. This month will bring together activists, allies, and community leaders for a remarkable and powerful event supporting trans people on the occasion of the Trans Day of Remembrance, or TDOR. November trans recognition events stand in stark contrast to the greatest trans community attacks in history by this year's election. TransInclusive Group, based in Wilton Manors, is rallying support for transgender equality through a series of events. On November 14th, it hosted a panel discussion on transgender rights and resilience at the Our Fund Foundation Auditorium in Fort Lauderdale at ArtServe. The panel addressed 2024's challenges and discussed advancing transgender equity and resilience. Continuing its advocacy, the organization, along with Arianna Center and Trans Social, will hold a TDOR march on November 20th to honor the lives lost to violence. The march will start in Wilton Manors Richardson Park and travel approximately 1 mile down famous Wilton Drive and turn south on Dixie Highway to continue to Pride Center at Equality Park. Then there will be a special program complete with food and other refreshments. Then TransInclusive Group will host the 10th Annual Transgender Equality Awards on November 26th at the Center for Spiritual Living in Fort Lauderdale. For details about all these events, you can visit transinclusivegroup.org. You know, in important events, I went to the panel State of the Trans Community on Thursday over at ArtServe, and Tatiana Williams led the panel, and it was an incredible panel of transgender leaders talking about what they need. You know, they need housing, they need basic things. It's like, okay, how can we help your community? I mean, they need a place to sleep and a way to get some kind of special training to be able to, withhold themselves, get themselves going in community. The trans community has been attacked by every angle, especially the last couple of years. Trump trying to get himself elected, he used the Trump card, he used the trans card, because people still don't understand everything that there is to do with the trans community, and they don't want to learn. Let's be realistic either. But we know our community. We know how important the T is to our acronym. And this month, as Trans Awareness Month, and TDOR as a day to remember the lives that we have lost, because that is still an epidemic of high numbers. Every single year, the number goes up. I think it was like February or March, we were like at 300 plus. It's a sad day. But it's a day to also honor the people that were lost and also educate folks that maybe haven't, don't know all the ins and outs. There's a lot of unlearning that needs to happen. That is what I've learned from my trans sisters. We've been programmed, even us, even the LGB have been programmed in a way that we weren't unable to really understand their community. It's different when it's who you love as opposed to who you are.
Well, I think this is such, I think this is going to be the first of many marches that we will be taking part in following this election. But this one is especially important, and it's necessary to be there and support our trans people, for sure.
Yeah, and it also it makes me think of what politically what the other side is going to be doing. The Democrats, how are we going to move forward? Because I've heard a lot of conversation. People were pointing fingers like, oh, it's because we included trans and we talked about their, the rights of trans people, and Kamala referenced it also. And so there was some finger pointing saying, oh, we can't do that. And then, of course, there are many of us like us saying, no, we must continue to not only include but to raise up. To uplift, to be allies more than ever, to talk, to reach out, to dialogue, to ask. It's so important.
It really is. Do you remember? I think it was Trans Day of Visibility that landed. Not that landed. It's always on March 31st every single year. Okay, but it landed on Easter, and there was a huge debacle about us putting it on Easter. You know what I mean? And that was not the case. That that just speaks to the disassociation when it comes to the trans community, that they don't want to learn about the trans community.
Pretty sure that calendar was decided thousands of years ago.
I
don't really know where the finger point.
Right, Easter moves around every year. That day, March 31st, is always that day.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. But then again,
I think we control the calendar and the weather.
That's
we control the calendar and the weather. That's us, right?
Right.
If that was the case, wouldn't we send like all the bad weather to Texas and to here?
Or there'd be a rainbow in the sky every moment possible.
Well, okay. TDOR is Wednesday. It's the day after tomorrow. Make sure that you log into your social media. Go on over to TransInclusive Group, right, and find out which event you can go to. There are events in Miami. There are also events up here. The McKenzie Project also does events down in Miami. Find somewhere and go represent. If you've never gone, okay, maybe you also are like many in our community, right, that are afraid to ask the questions. This is the safest place that you can go to do that, right? You know, just ask. Just ask and say, what can I do to help? You might be surprised by the answer that you get. You know, when I asked Tatiana and Adriana, what can I do? I understand my privilege. I know that if I go somewhere and I don't open my freaking mouth, you won't know I'm gay, right? You know, what can I do for you? Okay, we're going to put you to work. You're going to now host every single year Trans Day of Visibility. And I said, hell to the yeah. You know, time, talent, and tithing. You give whatever you can give.
Right.
Okay, and our trans community needs it now more than ever. All right. If trans healthcare is taken completely off the table for our siblings, they're going to be in an awful, awful state. We must come together and be there for our trans community. Okay.